Uh, but there's the one major difference is that in Lavender Tower you fight a Marowak who's a ghost, right? And if you use a Poké Doll on the Marowak, like just in the fight, if you use a Poké Doll, it immediately ends the fight and it lets you progress through the game. So, yeah, like, is this a glitch? Is this not a glitch? Well, it's literally what happens when you use a Poké Doll, right? So you're not doing anything crazy. You're just like going to your item menu, selecting Poké Doll, and using it, and that's what happens. The Japanese community decided that this like skips because like this skips story elements and so on. It's not allowed. Whereas the English community basically said like, okay, well, all you're doing is you're going to your item menu and using Poké Doll. Why is that not? Why would that not be allowed?
Makes sense.
We're playing on red, or Panuta's playing on red version. There's actually not a whole lot of difference between red, green, and blue anymore, because we found, like, I guess a few months ago, we found that you can actually do some amount of RNG manipulation, where I'll explain a little bit more about how it works when we get to that part. But because the main part of the community is in English, pretty much all of the routing for RNG manipulation was done on the English version, and none of that works on the Japanese version. So Debomstu actually ran used one of the modified one of the existing RNG manipulation searching programs to work with the Japanese version. Ran it just within the last week, and we got Panuta an RNG manipulation to get a good Nidoran. So he should be using that, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get to that part. But he's going to be picking Squirtle here, and this is mainly because we need to get past Brock, and you're gonna be using one of your you're gonna be using your starter to get past Brock, and Squirtle's the best one. It learns Bubble at level 8, which is 4 times effective against both Geodude and Onix. And if you compare it to the other starters, Bulbasaur gets Leech Seed at level 7, and then Vine Whip at level 13. Takes forever to get to level 13. And Charmander gets Ember at level 9, so it already takes longer to get to level 9. Ember's not very effective. You can burn the Pokemon, but that's about it. So here we have what is probably the worst fight in the game. The first rival fight against the Bulbasaur. So the basic strategy here is to use one Tail Whip and then tackle, and ideally you don't get growled too much. And it looks like he had a really good fight because that last tackle was doing 5 damage. So yeah, so if you don't get growled at all, your tackles are going to be doing 5 damage usually. Bulbasaur has 20 HP. So you do 1 Tail Whip, 4 tackles, 5 turn fight. That's ideal. If you get growls, then your tackles can start doing they start doing less and less damage. And if you only do 1 Tail Whip and you get growled a whole lot, your tackles can actually start doing 1 damage. And if it gets to that point, you will want to do a second Tail Whip, and then your tackles will start doing 2 damage again. Speeds it up a lot. And then
Sorry, I think a lot of the casual Pokemon players out here just had their mind blown that Tail Whip and Growl even do anything. So,
yeah, you know, right?
Yeah.
It actually will come up even more in an even more interesting way when we get to Route 3. So there, Panuta took out a level 2 Rattata. That was actually great to find a level 2 Rattata. That is you want to you need 1 encounter on Route 1 worth of experience so that you hit level 8 right before you fight Brock again to get Bubble. And a level 2 Rattata is the easiest encounter to kill. So that was perfect. And he's just gonna go get Oak's Parcel and walk back to Pallet Town. And he's gonna go around this grass here. If you can cut through the grass, and it saves 2 seconds or something if you cut through and don't get an encounter. We call that taking YOLO grass. Usually, Well, the normal strategy for that is you'll cut through the grass if you haven't gotten your encounter yet, but you'll go around it if you've gotten your encounter already.
Cool. Hey, with that being said, we got our next host coming in here, Golden. So I'm Grand Pooh Bear. You can find me at Grand_Pooh Bear. I'm going to throw it over to Golden. Thank you, Extra Tricky, for being here for this Pokemon run, and thank you, RTA in Japan. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Have a good one, Pooh Bear. Thanks again.
Hey,
hello,
thanks,
everybody.
Have a good one.
Hello, everybody. Just joining the call here. Continue. You can continue with the commentary, by the way.
Yep. So there's so when he gets back to Viridian, he's going to buy some Pokeballs, and that's all he's going to buy. And then he's going to do the one RNG manipulation that we've routed for Japanese version. And the way RNG manipulation works in this game is essentially you're going to become a TAS, right? So TASes can RNG manipulate basically any game because like the console doesn't have any external source of randomness. It just has to, like, if you do the exact same inputs from powering on the console, you'll get the exact same results every time. And pretty much every game has that property. It turns out that for Gen 1 Pokemon games, you can get pretty decently far where every single input you do from the power on is buffered. So he's going to do a hard reset on the console and then do a sequence of buffered inputs and walk to the grass in a very particular way. And in doing so, he'll manipulate getting, I believe we're getting a level 4 Nidoran male with DVs that are 15, 10, 14, 15. So 15 in attack, 10 in defense, 14 in speed, and 15 in special. So there's also about like a 1 in 30 chance that this just doesn't work, and that's caused by the in-game time of the save when you make the save, but it looks like it worked fine. And here's the level 4 Nidoran. And if you've watched any various runs, you might have heard people talk about YOLO balling. That's when you just throw the ball at full health. It looks like he messed up his menuing a little bit because he picked up the PC potion for a safer start and then forgot about it and tried to use slot 1 instead of slot 2. So he's going to weaken the Nidoran now to actually to have a higher chance of catching it. But I mentioned that you want to do all buffered inputs, but clearing a text box is only a 3-frame window, and it's rather difficult to do. So there's one 3-frame input right when you get that encounter, and if you hit it, you can buffer using your Pokeball, and if the manip is set up right, you can guarantee that you just catch it at full health. But like I said, he forgot, or like he just got confused about whether his Pokeballs were in item slot 1 or 2, so he had to go ahead and weaken the Nidoran. So the reason we use Nidoran, if you watched this run like a few years ago, well, I guess it's like 3 or 4 years ago at this point. If you watched it a few years ago, it would have been using Squirtle for the whole run. And that's sort of like the default is, you get this Squirtle, which is a pretty strong Pokemon. And if you use it through the whole run, you don't really have any problems. You have to use a few, like X items here and there, but overall it's not too bad and you can do it. But we use Nidoran because Nidoran gets a really, really strong late-game moveset. You get things like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Horn Drill, which is a one-hit KO move, and we'll talk more about why one-hit KO moves are so good in Gen 1 a bit later. And you also get the 3rd stage evolution really, really quickly. So overall it ends up being several minutes faster to switch to Nidoran. Also, when he was walking through the forest, if you're used to the English version or any of the international versions, if these tiles with a flower in the lower right don't generate any encounters, But in the Japanese version, it actually checks the lower left subtile for checking whether it's grass, which makes all of the grass, everything that looks like a grass tile, actually can give an encounter in the Japanese version. So, if you're used to the English, like very specific routing through the forest, that's why that didn't happen. And so he's gonna fight this level 9 Weedle. This one is pretty straightforward. You just you tail whip twice and then tackle it, and ideally you do 4 tackles after the 2 tail whips. So he hits level 8, gets Bubble, and Bubble will take care of Brock pretty well for us. And I'll also mention that with the RNG manipulation, it's actually dependent on what console you're playing on. And I haven't seen any other game have like this sort of console difference. So Bermuda is playing on a Game Boy player, which functions identically to a Game Boy Advance. But if you tried to do that on a Game Boy Color or on the 3DS Virtual Console version or an original Game Boy, anything else, it just won't work. You'll get totally different results.
So I think you've kind of answered this. Oh, go ahead. You want to go ahead and explain this?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my question was, we've heard in the past that to be good at Pokemon in marathon settings, you had to kind of be able to think on your feet a lot because you know really what the game was throwing at you. But how true is that now in the 2016 version of Red and Blue? Is it still you have to adapt a lot, or has it become more consistent?
It really depends on how far you really want to push it in a marathon setting. There still are strategies in the later game where you do need to adapt to like different damage ranges and things like that. So if you take 14 damage here versus taking 18 damage, that can change your decision. But yeah, your Nidoran stats are going to be the same, so it's much easier. Like you don't have to think about, okay, there's like 6 different routes that I might take depending on my stats. You just have the one set of stats and you can go with it. So it is definitely a little bit less true now, and also the strats that depend on how much damage you take are often very risky and might not even be worth it in a marathon setting at all. So you could really do a full marathon run with really no variance, like you just do a pre-planned route. But if you wanted to be sort of more risky, and we'll see how risky Panuta plays this when we get to the later game. He might go for some of those risky strats that still do have that adjustment. So we just beat Brock and don't need to check stats anymore because we've manipulated the Nidoran stats. So Nidoran's going to have very good stats for the entire run. Has essentially perfect attack and speed. It's actually only a 14 speed DV, which I don't think changes anything between 14 and 15, but you can't actually get both 15 attack and 15 speed with a good special value. If you get both 15 attack and 15 speed, your special is capped at about 7 due to a quirk of, due to some interesting math about how the random number generator works in the game. I'm not going to go into that too much, but essentially, 90% of possible stat combinations that you might expect aren't actually possible. There's only about 1/10 of Nidorans are actually possible. So we're going through. So here we've essentially completely main switched from Squirtle to Nidoran. Nidoran's going to be used for the entire rest of the run. I believe that the only other time that a Pokemon... There will be one more time, unless I'm forgetting something, there will be one more time that a Pokemon other than Nidoran makes an appearance in battle. And that'll be much later in the game. So with Route 3, I think Panuta's going to be going for a reasonably safe routing where he takes the center before Mount Moon. But because we can manipulate such good Nidorans, if you do make sort of aggressive routing decisions, you can save enough horn attacks to skip that Pokemon Center. And it does save time. It saves like a little, it only saves a little bit of time overall, but it is certainly possible. Okay, so I should also mention what I alluded to earlier, where the stat lowering moves actually have a hidden effect. Where so now that Panuta has beaten Brock, he has the Boulder Badge, which raises his Pokemon's attack when he's in battle. So, like when you're in battle, after you've beaten, when you have the Boulder Badge, your attack stat is increased by a factor of 9/8. And it turns out that whenever one of your stats changes, like if you get hit by String Shot or something, it reapplies all of those badge boosts instead of just the one that corresponds to the stat that got changed. So every time he gets hit by String Shot, or like here if Rattata Tail Whips him, every time one of his stats changes, his attack goes up by another factor of 9/8. So if you get String Shotted, you're actually doing more and more damage after each String Shot, and that can living at 1 HP.
Wow.
So that changes some of the damage ranges and is actually very relevant for routing the late game as well. Because we can change our own stats, right? Once you get to the late game, you can buy X items, and if you use an X attack or an X speed or an X special, right, you're changing one of your stats, and that increases your other stats in addition to it. So I haven't looked at the Japanese route a whole lot, but in the English version, there's a few cases there's one case where we use an X special to get the big special boost to get the big boost to our special, but we also get a small boost to our speed, which allows us to move which is all we need to move first for the entire fight. And those extra badge boosts actually go away whenever you level up. So the routing is very, very precise in the late game, because if you level up in the wrong spot, you can lose that speed badge boost, and now you're moving second, and then that can just cause you to lose the fight entirely. So all of the level ups have been carefully routed for the entire game to make sure that you don't lose stats when you can't afford to, and that everything works out. He got a good crit on the Kakuna. Crits ignore all stat changes, so what the hardens that the Kakuna did just didn't matter at all for that crit.
Have to point out the 1337 heal HP.
Yep.
I mean,
13 out of 37 HP.
Got to get that in there while we can.
So at the end of Route 3, he's going to be catching the flyer for the run. It'll be either a Spearow or a Pidgey. It doesn't matter which one. You have, I think it's 90% of encounters in the Route 3 grass are either Spearow or Pidgey, and the remaining 10% are Jigglypuffs. So you really don't want to see Jigglypuffs, but sometimes it happens, and you just run from it and look for another encounter.
So I guess obviously the route changes aside, or route differences aside, between the versions, is there a particular spot of this run that kind of poses the biggest threat, especially in like a marathon setting? Or is there a spot like, once we get past this, we're coasting, or is it still all the way to the end?
There are safe sections and there are dangerous sections. Most of the run is very safe. There's a few places where you can die, but in a marathon setting, you just save before those fights, and if you die, you just reload and do the fight again. So the first one of those is going to be Misty. Misty it's actually quite safe with the manipulated Nidoran, because the Nidoking will actually be able to outspeed Starmie at that level. And so, because you're moving first, you only have to take one hit from the Starmie unless she uses Bubble Beam and gets the speed fall. So, most of the time you're only taking one hit. It's very safe. Unless, I mean, you can get speed falled, you can get crit, you can get a crit. There are still ways to die, but most of the time you'll be fine. Then after that, everything's going to be reasonably safe unless Panuta plays risky. There's a lot of risk reward trade-offs that happen in the late game because, well, we'll talk about it more later on. But there's a mechanic called Red Bar where if you're at low health, you actually save a lot of time. So depending on how much he goes for Red Bar, he might be playing risky, and if you're in Red Bar, any one thing can go wrong and kill you. And in the Generation 1 games, there's the only move with perfect accuracy is Swift. Any other move, or if you've used an X accuracy, then you also have perfect accuracy. But for basically every fight, every move has a 1 in 256 chance of missing. And so if you're in Red Bar and you miss one of your attacks, your opponent can just sort of do that little bit of damage to take out the Nidoran. So here in Mount Moon, he's going to go out of his way to fight 2 optional trainers. This gets him to level 16, which will evolve to Nidorino, and then we'll be able to use a Moonstone to evolve to Nidoking right afterward. And these optional trainers, we've looked at a lot of ways to cut them out of the run. It's still for basic routing, these 2 optional trainers do seem to be the best way to get into a good spot in the early mid game. But because for sort of just like you can manipulate the Nidoran encounter, you can also manipulate Mount Moon. And so based on when you manipulate Mount Moon, it's it might be worth it to get experience in slightly different ways so that you can get perhaps more a longer stretch of Mount Moon inside of your manipulation. Panuta's not going to be doing Mount Moon manipulation because, like I said, manipulation is extremely version specific, and so we've routed a few for English versions, but as far as I'm aware, no one's routed Mount Moon manipulation for Japanese, and it's actually very intensive. Because every time that you do a map transition, so every time you when you walk from the first floor to the second floor to the third floor, it's there's an additional chance for the manipulation to start failing. And again, this is based on the in-game time of when you made your save file. So routing Mount Moon manipulations is very tricky because it's a very long manipulation. And so you need to have to get the consistency you'd want. We more or less we're mainly routing it by semi brute force computer programs at the moment, and it takes a long time and it's pretty costly to find these manipulations. So no one, yeah. So unfortunately, we are going to have to get various encounters. But on the plus side, this means that he'll be able to take a slightly safer experience route by killing a few Zubats in Mount Moon. And this gives you a few really good level ups along the way later on that make the run a decent amount safer. So he took out a level 9 Zubat, he's now he's running from a level 8 Zubat. I'm not sure if he just really wants another level 9, or if he already got an extra level 9 that I missed. But yeah, if you get 2 level 9 Zubats, that is all the experience you need. If he did kill the level 8 Zubat, he would need 1 more Zubat. So, okay, he got a level 10, so we'll see if he kills this one. Yep, there he goes. So, the level 9 plus the level 10 is going to be enough. Although, unfortunately, level 10s don't always die to one horn attack, so a little bit unfortunate there. Yep, like Jim Freak is saying in chat, one of the really good level ups you get with the higher experience is you get level 30 for the Oddish and Rock Tunnel, and that completely eliminates the damage range. If you're level 29, you can sometimes not kill the Oddish, and then you're using Thrash, and the Oddish can use Sleep Powder, it can use Stun Spore, it can use whatever. It can use those two moves, and if you get put to sleep while you're using Thrash, you just keep trying to use Thrash while you're asleep. You can't use items or anything like that. So, so you just you're asleep, and in Generation 1, the sleep counter is between 1 and 7 turns. So you might be asleep for 7 turns while this Oddish is just using Absorb every single turn. And especially if you're going for red bar at that point, that will just kill you. So, so now we get to use our Moonstone, evolve to Nidoking. This is where Nidoran starts having a lot more speed compared to Blastoise or compared to Squirtle. It should be a Wartortle at this point, but Nidoking has really high base stats for something that you can get this early on in the game, and will more or less destroy everything up until we get to Misty. And then we'll still destroy Misty, but it's a little bit scary. One small difference that throws people off if you like learn the English version and then you try to switch to playing on the Japanese version, the Pokemon menu and the bag menu are actually switched in the fight menu. So like when you're in a battle, right, the top left is fight, and then on English to the right is Pokemon, and below fight is item, and then at the bottom right is run. But on the Japanese, it's the other way around. So you go to the right for item and down for Pokemon. And it really messes with your muscle memory if you try to run both versions of the game at the same time. So one thing you might notice is there are two, so Ponyta has animations off, but there's still 2 different kinds of moves. There's moves that give a flash animation, like Horn Attack, so that's his main one, and there's a Shake. So right there he used Horn Attack on the Voltorb and then Poison Sting. And Horn Attack causes the Voltorb to flash, and Poison Sting causes the screen to do a little shake. And the Shake is actually about 0.9 seconds faster than the flash. So whenever you have a choice between using Horn Attack or using Poison Sting, you favor using Poison Sting, and it's why we keep Poison Sting for so long in the run. It's because it's the one shake move we get early on, and for finishing off those cases where we miss the damage range and so on, or like if Horn Attack almost kills a Pokemon and Poison Sting would do enough, then you can save that 0.9 seconds by just using Poison Sting instead. Alright, so 27:24 was the Mount Moon exit time. That's like pretty solid for a marathon run, and you know, it is Japanese version, so the Japanese text has probably saved 30 seconds to a minute at this point already. But especially without manipulation in Mount Moon, it's totally solid. So we're taking this Pokemon Center here, not just to heal the Pokemon. Like, healing the Pokemon is great, but we're also going to use this, in order to set the dig location, or like when you use an escape rope or use dig or teleport, you go to the last Pokemon Center you used. And in Pokemon Red Blue, you can actually dig out of Bill's house. So in order to skip sort of walking back from Bill's house to Cerulean, you want to use an escape rope in Bill's house, but you don't want that to take you to before Mount Moon. You want it to take you to Cerulean, so that's why we take the Cerulean Center there. There is another semi-disputed glitch in the game where, in this case, both the English and the Japanese communities have decided to ban it, but there's a quirk of the game called instant text, where if you talk to the bike shop owner before you get the bike voucher, and you use the B button to exit out of the menu, it just causes text boxes to display instantly until something resets the flag that prevents that like causes the text to be displayed normally again. So again, it's in some sense it's a glitch because text doesn't normally display instantly, and like something that triggers the text to display instantly is like, well, that should be a glitch, right? But on the other hand, that's just what the bike shop owner does. And if you're not doing anything crazy, like you're just talking to the bike shop owner and you're hitting B, which is totally something that is normal gameplay. And it just happens to have a side effect that sets instant text. So, you can make up your own decision on whether you call that a glitch or not, but both the English and Japanese communities have decided to disallow it from their glitchless categories. So this section of the game, where we're going from Cerulean up to Bill's house, is pretty straightforward. We're really just going to take out pretty much every Pokemon in one hit, and once he gets past, I think it'll be the 4th trainer on Nugget Bridge, he'll use the 2 rare candies that he picked up in order to get to level 23, and at that point Nidoking learns Thrash. And Thrash is a very powerful move that also attacks 3 or 4 times for just the 1 PP. So it allows you to take out pretty much, you just use Thrash and then the fight is over, more or less. And it's also really good because we don't need to, you don't need to recover your PP very often. So we'll see that, so we'll see Thrash a lot for that section, but this section of the game is really straightforward. It's just, there's a lot of trainers that we have to get through. So this trainer with this Ekans, the Ekans is sort of has this move called Wrap, which is really annoying in Generation 1. What it does is it actually just prevents you from using your move for, like, it's essentially a multi-hit move, but it lasts multiple turns. So it, like, if it hits the first turn, then you're going to be unable to use your own attacks for 2 to 5 turns, and that just spends a whole lot of time because there's that shake animation every single turn. You have to wait for all the text to go, and it spends a lot of time. So unfortunately, he didn't get the damage range on the Ekans, so it did get a wrap off, but it was a short wrap, and so it wasn't too bad.
By the way, I don't know if we explained this or not, but I did some research, I did some digging, and the Nidoran, or in this case, fully evolved, we've got Itotaka here, and the name actually happens to be the name of the commentator that's doing the commentary on screen right now.
Oh, that's great.
So here's his Twitter. If anybody wants to follow him, give him a follow. I'm going to post it in chat. I'll probably get banned because I can't post links. We'll see. But check him out.
So here, if anyone was watching runs before we found RNG manipulation, those stats were amazing. Like, those are the perfect stats that you want to see. But of course, now with RNG manipulation, we get those every time. And someone asked in chat, what's Panuta using as a controller? He's using a Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advance SP as a controller, you can connect a Game Boy Advance or SP to the Game Boy player, or to the GameCube, in order to use it as a controller for the Game Boy player. It's it's totally personal preference whether you prefer to play with a Game Boy Advance Everyone basically chooses between SP or the GameCube controller. And like you could use a normal Game Boy Advance, but I don't think no one likes it. So it's really personal preference. I think that the D-pad is better on the Game Boy Advance SP than on the GameCube controller, but I personally use the GameCube controller because I really like the button layout of how the X and Y buttons become select, so you've got A, B, and select really close together, and start's pretty easy to hit as well. Alright, so when you get to here, there's actually two different hikers you can fight. The lower hiker has an Onyx, and the upper hiker has this Machop and Geodude. And in the initial version of the Nidoran route, we would pick up Water Gun in Mount Moon and use it on the Onyx hiker. But I think it was about 2 years ago now, we found out that, or we did some timing and found out that in the average case, if you skip Water Gun and then you fight the top hiker and just use Thrash on the Geodude, you save like 15 seconds on average or something like that. And it's kind of infuriating because sometimes Geodude just keeps using Harden, and then you don't, so after the 3 or 4 turns of Thrash, you get confused. So if Geodude uses Harden repeatedly, you leave Thrash without killing it, and then you're confused, and you can hit yourself in confusion, and you can just die there. And it kind of sucks, but with really good... oh yeah, I guess it's Defense Curl, not Harden. Thank you guys in chat. But so you can just keep using Defense Curl, and you can end up just killing yourself in the confusion. But it's reasonably safe with a really good Nidoran, and it's pretty standard. This is also one of those sections where you could be playing risky, and if you're going for a world record attempt, you probably would be playing risky and trying to get red bar for this section. But for marathon setting, it makes sense to play a lot less risky. When you try to get red bar here, it's pretty scary because, if you get a critical hit when, you need to get hit in order to get your health down into red bar. And if you get criticaled on that turn, you'll probably just die. So it's often, in a lot of cases with the, in marathon settings, you're just not going to go for red bar. Plus these Pidgeys have quick attack, so if you're at 10 HP and both Pidgeys use quick attack, you can just die there. And again, if you get the 1 in 256 miss, you can just die like that. Lots of ways to die, but he's playing it pretty safe here. So we'll see how much he heals up for Misty. It's with the manipulated Nidorans, you generally want to heal to about 45 to 50, especially for record attempts, because if Misty uses a single Bubble Beam, you'll still live, but you'll live in red bar. So you'll be able to carry that red bar and save time on the section up to Surge. But again, that's very risky. So he might heal all the way up. That also plays around a Bubble Beam crit. He'll be able to survive that. And potentially, if he gets a Speed Fall, he can still live through the second turn from Starmie. So we'll see how much he decides to heal up for. Looks like he's going all the way up to full. And there he uses the escape rope to get out of the house and back to Cerulean. Saves a good amount of time. That unfortunately did get changed in the yellow version, where they no longer allow you to escape rope out of Bill's house, and you have to walk back. But that also adds some additional routing, because in red and blue, you're basically forced to take the cerulean center in order to set that dig location. But if in yellow, you have the option: do you take the cerulean center before doing Nugget Bridge? Do you take it after Nugget Bridge? Do you take it after Misty? You still want to take that center because you're going to dig out in yellow. You dig out of Diglett's Cave to get back to cerulean from Vermilion, but you have that choice of like 3 different timings of when you might want to take it, and it adds a lot of possibilities there. So he saved before Misty because it's very unlikely that he dies here. All he's going to do is use Thrash, and he should be fine. But there are chances where like Misty could get a speed fall with the first Bubble Beam, and then get a crit with another Bubble Beam, or something. Like, he could die here. And it's more than that sort of 1 in 256 chance of missing his attacks. So, you know, you can back it up if you do die to Misty and you're in like a marathon setting or whatever. It's perfectly fine to just go back into the fight and do it again. You're down money, but you can pick up an extra nugget and everything works out just fine. All right, so now that we're past Misty, we're gonna go to Vermilion City, and we've got this Rocket who has the Dig TM. We're going to use Dig later on in the game to basically exactly what we use the escape rope there in Bill's house for, which is to get sort of teleports out of dungeons or out of buildings to a particular center, and it'll be Celadon Center for the late game. And so I guess he didn't get a Paris in Mount Moon. So I would ideally have a Paris in order to learn Cut and Dig, but instead he'll teach Dig to the Squirtle, and I'm not super sure about what the in-game trades in Japanese. I think it's the same for Japanese Red as in English. I know in Japanese Blue it's different. So when you don't get a Paris, there's a backup where you can trade a Spearow for a Farfetch'd. But in the Japanese Blue version, which is sort of the third game that got released, it's actually a Pidgey for Paris instead. Pidgey for Farfetch'd instead. So you need to be wary of that. But I think he got a Spearow, and I think he didn't get Paris, so I think he'll trade that Spearow for Farfetch'd, assuming that the in-game trade is the same in Japanese Red as English Red. So here, this is a section where if you were going for Red Bar, this fight would actually be really scary, because you might be at like 10 HP, and then you have 3 Pidgeys, which all do 5 damage with Quick Attack, and then a Rattata that does 6 damage with Quick Attack. And if you're in Red Bar and you get too many Quick Attacks, you can just die and lose your run right here. So this is another case of where you might not want to go for Red Bar in a marathon run. And sometimes you'll see that the screen sort of goes wide. The Game Boy Player actually supports like widescreen and the normal aspect ratio, and you switch between them by hitting the L and R buttons. And I think when you're playing on an SP, the L and R buttons are pretty easy to accidentally hit. So that's why you see the screen sort of stretching occasionally. Okay, so we're going to SS Anne, and SS Anne Rival is not too bad. It's just gonna be... Oh, he's actually healing for it. That's probably more safe than he needs to be, but it's a marathon. Can't blame him. And yeah, so so the SSN rival, we're going to use Horn Attack at first, and then like we're going to delay the Thrash so that we only need the 3-turn Thrash. If we needed a like you can Thrash a turn earlier and on the Eradicate, and it actually does save a turn if you get that 4-turn Thrash, but you only have a 50% chance of getting the 4-turn Thrash. So overall it's 75% because you can get the 4-turn Thrash, or you can break through or you can hit through the Confusion and get the 4th turn of Thrash that way. And he actually got Sand attacked, so he's going to sacrifice the Spearow here in order to get the switch out and play safer so that he doesn't have the reduced accuracy. So yeah, here he's probably going to Bubble Beam the Eradicate twice. Yep, that's so. He prefers Bubble Beam over Horn Attack because Bubble Beam is that shake animation, which is 0.9 seconds faster than the Flash animation. And now he'll do the Thrash. So Thrash will 1-hit the Kadabra and then 2-hit the Ivysaur. And by doing that, you only need the 3-turn Thrash. If you use Thrash on Eradicate, it does go down in 1 hit, but then you need to rely on that 4-turn Thrash.
Well, I think now is a good time as any to remind everybody what's going on here. If you just tuned in, wondering what's up, this is RTA in Japan. It's the first major speedrunning event taking place live in Japan. We've had sort of a test run a couple months ago. A runner by the name of Moko organized an event and had, maybe a dozen or a few more runners show up. And this is kind of the full-fledged, debut of, I guess if you want to call it like the equivalent of like Japanese GDQ. Couple days of nonstop speedrunning, and if you're a fan of speedrunning at all, you got to be excited about this. I mean, just seeing the attendance, if you look at the webcam there, I mean, that's just something to be excited about. So it's got to start somewhere, and this is a pretty good start, I think.
Yeah, it looks like a really great event. I kind of wish I could be there too.
Yeah, same. To be honest, it's impressive. You get kind of that old GDQ vibe a little bit. From a couple of years ago. They've got a little bit of a smaller crowd, but it's a good one. So,
yep. All right. So now that we've left the SSN, we are going to. He's going to take a quick shopping break to get repels. And it looks like he's getting 7 super potions. So that's pretty much a throwback to some of the original Nidoran routing, where we used to buy 7 super potions there. In the modern English route, I don't know how different it is for the Japanese route, but in the modern English route, we actually don't buy any super potions there. We delay the super potion buy up till the Celadon Mart, and then we only buy 3. So that's going to be it's very safe, but it's also sort of wasteful because he's just not going to use those 7 super potions. But the RNG manipulation was, we only really found we only set up the RNG manipulation for the Japanese Nidoran within the last week. So his routing was all probably doing like random Nidorans and so on. So so he might just be used to getting 7 and is just going to do it that way. And there he did do the trade of Spearow for Farfetch'd. So Farfetch'd will be able to learn Cut. If he had Pidgey instead of Spearow, he would need to catch an Oddish in order to teach that Cut, because we do need Cut in order to get into Surge's gym. Okay, so Surge's gym has this puzzle called trash cans, and he's actually. Oh, it looks like he might have a RNG manipulation for this. So, yeah, it looks like he has RNG manipulation for trash cans. So that's really cool. I didn't know that he would have it, have RNG manipulation here. But the first can is going to be in a random even can. So out of the 15 cans, there's there's 8 cans that can have the first one, and then the second can is going to be either it's either going to be a particular neighbor of it, or it'll be actually in the Japanese version there's like this crazy mapping because all the memory is sort of packed closer together. In the English version, the second can has a 50% chance of being in the top left, no matter where the first can is. And in the Japanese version, it's like the memory is close packed together, so instead of having zeros everywhere, you've got just arbitrary data, or like you've just got less predictable data. And so it is a constant mapping and you can memorize it, but I unfortunately don't have it memorized. But it looks like, so he did the same sort of RNG manipulation where he did a hard reset of the console and then did fully buffered inputs up till talking to the first can, or like checking the first can. And that's the point where the second can's location is determined. So at that point, he doesn't need to buffer inputs anymore. So the text doesn't matter, how he clears the text doesn't matter, anything like that. And he can just get the cans first try. And so Surge gives the, what's the badge called? It's like
a Thunder Badge.
It's the Thunder Badge. Thank you. Okay. So the game actually tells you that the Thunder Badge raises your Pokemon's defense. Or no, it tells you that it raises your Pokemon's speed, but it actually raises your Pokemon's defense. And you get the corresponding badge boost there. And Koga's badge instead, the Soul Badge, gives you the gives you that speed boost. So a lot of information on the internet is wrong about Gen 1, and that's largely because the game lies to you in a lot of places. And we also got the Thunderbolt TM, which is going to be great because there are Slowpokes coming up in Rock Tunnel, and Thunderbolt deals with those very nicely. And that's one of the places where Nidoking goes way faster than Squirtle, because Squirtle is using Dig. If you were running the Squirtle route, you'd be using Dig on those Slowpokes. One Dig doesn't even take them out, and they have Confusion that can confuse you, and it's overall a pretty bad time. Plus, if you're going for record attempts and so on, you can get pretty consistent red bar by letting a Slowpoke hit you with Confusion, and get your HP into that red bar range to save time. So I'll talk about exactly what time red bar saves when we get to the consistent red bar section, which will be after Koga. So there's also a bunch of menuing techniques in this game, which are not obvious at all. If you are holding, like, the way the game processes inputs is it basically checks whether a new button was pressed, and then it applies all buttons that were held. So if you're like holding down and then you press A while still holding down, it'll apply the down input and then the A in a lot of circumstances. So you can use this to your advantage by buffering that A press, or to like use the bike, you can press A to open the item menu and then press B while A is still held, and the game will actually apply the A press before the B press so you get on the bike. And there's a lot of tricks like that to very, very quickly, or frame perfectly in a lot of cases, do menus. Alright, so we're coming up on Rock Tunnel, and Rock Tunnel is very dark, but it's not going to be too hard to navigate.
Have we even talked about Flash, how it exists?
Well, Yeah, so Flash exists. It requires you to catch 10 Pokemon to get it, and that's just going to take way too long. But what I actually was going to talk about here is that if you notice, he's on a color palette where you can just see the trainers inside of Rock Tunnel. The walls are actually always visible. On every single palette you can see the walls, so it's pretty easy to navigate Gen 1 Rock Tunnel by just looking at the walls and like looking at them in relation to the edge of the screen and figuring out where you are based on that. But one of the palettes, which we call Cheater Palette, has a different 0 color for the sprite palette and for the background palette. So like the background 0 is that dark brown that you see, and then the sprite 0 is actually pure black. So you can actually just see the sprite.
Rather than them blending together, yeah.
Yeah, you can just see everything. And I mean, it doesn't matter too much if you practice Rock Tunnel for any amount of time. You'll quickly figure out visual cues with the walls on how to bike and everything. But it makes it just a little bit easier to avoid bonking into walls and such.
And if you've never played Pokemon, I don't know where you've been, but Flash will light up these tunnels. That is the intended way to get through here.
Yep, you can use Flash inside the tunnel to light it up. So this is the Oddish where having that extra experience from Mount Moon really helps. He's level 30 there instead of 29. That guarantees that the Oddish goes down in one hit. Doesn't have a chance to use Sleep Powder, doesn't have a chance to use Stun Spore. We just get past it, no problem.
I mean, you brought that up at Mythical as kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, but there are people watching this stream right now that were born after Gen 1, so it's entirely possible they didn't know. I don't know.
Yep. The Gen 1 games also have been released on 3DS Virtual Console, so you don't need to get the original hardware. But if you are interested in doing speedruns, there isn't any good RNG manipulation routed yet for the Virtual Console versions. And so if you're going to really go seriously with speedrunning, you're going to want the originals, most likely. So here we're using Bubble Beam. These guys actually have, I think, self-destruct. And if you Gen 1 miss Bubble Beam, if you that 1 in 256 chance, you can just get a self-destruct in your face. Happens occasionally, but not a whole lot.
I always thought it was weird that there were certain Pokemon they just decided, like, yeah, they can learn all kinds of crap. I don't know. Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Bubble Beam, it's all good.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, Nidoking would not be nearly as good without its massive TM learn set. You get Bubble Beam, you get Thunderbolt, you get Ice Beam, you get Rock Slide, which we'll be using for the Ghastlies in Lavender Tower. You get Horn Drill, which, again, is a one-hit KO move that we'll talk about later. You get Earthquake. There's just so much. But for now, we're going to we've got this one more trainer before we get to the underground to go to Celadon City. And in the underground, I believe he's going to pick up both the elixir and the nugget based on the fact that he bought the 7 super potions. With more aggressive money routing, you can actually skip the nugget, and it saves a good amount of time, but it's not a big problem to pick up the nugget at all. And you do need to be a little bit careful here. If you do accidentally take one step out of position, you will fight an extra trainer. Bad times all around. So the nugget and the elixir are hidden items in the underground, and different people have different preferences on how to actually locate them. I personally use the background music and figure out when in the background music I'm getting to the particular square. Some people count bicycle pedals. Some people just sort of count timing, like just try to count in their head, like a certain number of seconds and so on.
It's a shame that the background has no variation in it that you can use for a visual cue.
Yeah, it is kind of annoying, but yeah. So here, he's actually taking a different path through the mart than you would do in English because you don't need that polka doll. Although he still is going to go to the second floor for super repels, so it's a bit interesting that he chose to take the elevator up. It should be faster to take stairs up and then take the elevator down, but maybe he just prefers this menu order, whatever. But what he's picking up now is some X items. They're not called, like, they don't have X in their name in Japanese, so like X speed is speeda instead, so like speeder basically. And you know, again, if you're used to the English version and you're trying to learn the Japanese version, it's something to get used to. But not too bad. There he gets the fresh water and the soda pop to get the ice beam and rock slide TMs. And then he's gonna go down. He's not going to buy a polka doll because that's not allowed. Because the skip with the polka doll is not allowed in the Japanese rule set. So he's going to go ahead and skip the 4th floor mart and go to the 2nd floor for super repels and TM07. TM07 is horn drill. So I guess now's a reasonably good time to explain why horn drill is such a good item. So, or it's such a good move. So in Generation 1, there's 2 differences between one-hit KO moves in Generation 1 versus every other game. The first is that you need to be faster than your opponent rather than a higher level. So, so you can, like, even if you're under-leveled, you can fix the fact that you're slower by using an X speed, and then you're now faster, and now you can use horn drill successfully. And the other major difference is that X accuracies, like, there are accuracy stages where, like, if you get hit by sand attack, you'll have, you know, you'll have a lower chance of hitting and so on, and there are those accuracy stages. But X accuracy doesn't use the accuracy stages. It actually just bypasses the accuracy check, and your moves will always hit. So pretty much any fight that could be a problem, you would just say, okay, I'm going to use an X accuracy and use an X speed if I need to, and then horn drill every single Pokemon that the opponent has. So here he's teaching all the moves, and I wasn't paying close enough attention. The last time I looked at the Japanese route, you actually do teach moves slightly differently from in English, because I think Bubble Beam is like, you want either Bubble Beam or Ice Beam for the Games Corner, and you have this choice between teaching Ice Beam early or keeping Bubble Beam. And you know, I didn't quite see what his choice was, so I'll see if I can figure it out once he gets to the part where it's useful. So yeah, this is the main difference. For the English speedrunning community, we would just be going, like, we wouldn't go to the Games Corner at all, because you can bypass that Marowak Ghost by just using a Polka Doll instead of having the Self Scope. But the Japanese community considers that a glitch, or I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's considered a glitch; it's banned in the glitchless category. So we're gonna do the Games Corner, and this is a good example of how slow the spinning tiles are. You might wonder, like, when we get to Giovanni's gym in Viridian City, we'll bypass all of the spinning tiles because it's just faster to not go on them. Like, you can you can do the gym without like leaving and re-entering, but it's actually going to be faster to leave and re-enter to reset a trainer position than to take the spinning tiles. Let's see. So his move order, he has Thrash in slot 4, Thunderbolt in slot 3. I didn't quite see slots 1 and 2, but I'll try to figure out what those are on the next fight. Your move order is pretty, like, we've spent a decent amount of time optimizing move order because it's faster to, like, move your cursor once than to move it twice and so on. So Thunderbolt is by far the least used move, so we go ahead and put that in slot 3 because for the most part, slot 3 is the least accessible slot. Oftentimes we're going to be switching between slots 1 and 4, between slots 1 and 2, and those are pretty quick. But the Japanese route, because of what we're doing, Games Corner actually has different considerations than the English route, so I'm not sure what the optimal move order is for Japanese. And it also might not have been totally optimized yet. And to an extent, it's personal preference. Like, the total difference between between different move orders is going to be less than a second over the whole run. And not using the wrong move is a way bigger consideration. Alright, so now we're going down to the bottom floor of the rocket hideout. And there's going to be 2 guards. You can fight these 2 guards in either order. He's fighting the right one first. And the choice of which one to do first is because I think the first one will give you a level up, and that might actually allow you to get a better damage range on the second one. So let's see. Yeah, so he has Ice Beam in slot 2, so that was an Ice Beam that he just used there. And so he did teach Ice Beam early. He's going with that route. I think he has Horn Drill in slot 1. I think that's his slot 1 move. But we haven't seen that be used quite yet. So overall, like, when you look at the difference between the routes, it's not a huge difference. Games Corner is a reasonably slow section of the run, and, you know, the English runners don't really feel like we're missing anything. Like, feel like the run is more fun without the Games Corner. Like, even if you do really consider Polkadol a glitch or whatever, like, there's not a whole lot of interesting fights in the Games Corner. It gives you extra, like, you get higher leveled. It does change your, like, what move order you want by a little bit. But it's overall, the changes are pretty minor. Yeah, so the move order right now is Horn Drill, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Thrash. I'm not entirely sure what item he just used there. Oh, that was an X accuracy. Okay, so yeah, he used an X accuracy. There's the Horn Drill on the third Pokemon there to pick up the one-hit knockout. And the X accuracy ensures that it always hits. So no worry about missing at all. Don't have to deal with that 30% chance. And now we're going to be teaching Rock Slide. Because Rock Slide is the best move to use to deal with the Ghastlies in Lavender Tower. This does mean that we don't have So the main difference for Lavender Tower is going to be now we don't have Thrash, because Panuta did decide to teach Ice Beam early, which meant that there wasn't the move slot to keep Thrash and also have Rock Slide. So in the English route, at the top of the tower, there's a rocket where we use Thrash on it, where we use Thrash to take out several Pokemon. And he's not going to be able to do that, so he'll have a slightly different set of moves to use for that fight. It's not a difficult fight by any means. It's just that Thrash is generally going to be the fastest when you can use it. So he'll lose compared to what we would be doing in English, he might lose a couple seconds on that fight. But I guess in his routing, the teaching Ice Beam early was worth it. So in the English route, we actually just come to this fight. Like we fly directly to Lavender Tower after the Celadon shopping and getting Fly, and we just use X accuracy and Horn Drill here. So it's actually really interesting that he's choosing to go with non-Horn Drill moves for this fight. He did use one Horn Drill in Games Corner, so maybe that was a consideration. He only gets he would only have 4 Horn Drills here instead of 5. But not too big of a problem. Like all the Pokemon can be taken out with one hit for the most part, but Horn Drill is a shake move, so whenever you're using a flash move over a shake move, you are losing that 0.9 seconds. And so it turns out that the time taken to use the X accuracy can be very quickly made up just from avoiding those flash animations. Okay, so these Ghastlies are really annoying because, I mean, they all die in one hit to Rock Slide, but Rock Slide is only 90% accuracy. So that's exactly what can happen. You can get missed, and he got paralyzed by Lick. So that's kind of the worst case scenario. It's not too bad, luckily, because these were on the first 2 Ghastlies, so after this fight he will get the healing pad to cure that paralysis. But if it happens on the later 2 Ghastlies, then it can be much more of a problem. And he's hitting himself in confusion now. I guess he got confused right at some point. There he gets the Rock Slide onto the Ghastly. Some pretty bad luck on the first 2 Ghastlies. Like, you only have to hit 4 Rock Slides, and they are 90%, so you are, like, more than 60% to not miss any of them. But sometimes things just go wrong, and if you get really, really unlucky, you can end up just killing yourself on that fight.
Is paralysis 50-50 to lose your turn?
Yep, paralysis is 50-50. It also quarters your speed, so...
Quarters, wow.
Yeah, so he moves after the Ghastlies, after that paralysis there. So that's why he was able to get confused so easily, is because they had that turn ahead of him. And if there's anyone here who just started playing Pokemon in Gen 7, the paralysis speed change actually got changed in Gen 7 to be halved instead of quartered. So here you actually are getting, like, you're almost always moving second if you're paralyzed. And yeah, this is another section where you might be doing where you ideally want to be in red bar, because it saves a bunch of time. And so if you're at like 20 HP, these Ghastlies have Nightshade, which just does damage equal to their level. So the Ghastly is level 23. So as a result, you know, they're level 23, they use Nightshade, they do 23 damage. So if you miss a Rock Slide and they use Nightshade, you just die. And your run's basically over at that point. So there he had the Sylph Scopes, so he Ice Beamed the Marowak and gets past it. Now we've got these rockets at the top. So in the English route, on the second rocket, we actually Horn Drill because we don't have very good moves to one-shot those two Pokemon, but I think the last time I looked at the Japanese route, you had other options. Based on the fact that he did teach Ice Beam early, I think the other options mostly involved using Thrash there. So since he taught Ice Beam early, I expect to see that we'll just see the X Accuracy and Horn Drills. And here, so normally when we fight trainers, we normally talk to them to avoid this exclamation mark. But here, it's actually different because the rockets walk off screen after you fight them, and they walk pretty slowly. So if the camera is one tile lower, they have to walk an extra tile. And so that combined with walking out of your way to talk to the trainer adds up to more than the time of the exclamation mark. And so it's just worth it to walk in front of them. And we also don't mind that rocket walking one tile to us because he would have to walk that tile left anyway in order to get off the screen. So when you add together the walking before the fight and the walking after the fight, you don't save any time by going to the right, and you might as well just stay on the column that you're on. And we did see that he used the X Accuracy and 2 Horn Drills there. So this is the fight where, in the English route, we would be using Thrash on the after the Rattata, probably. It's again a case where you can play a little bit risky. So he's using Ice Beam here, and we'll see what move you use for the Raticate. Looks like another Ice Beam. Does that take it out? It does. Okay. So it looks like he's just using Ice Beam, and that deals with everything versus using Thrash. And Ice Beam is a shake move. Generally, the way the moves work is that if they have a potential side effect, so Ice Beam has that chance to freeze, if they have that sort of side effect, it'll be a shake move. And if they don't have any side effect, it'll be a flash move. So Horn Attack being not having any side effect is going to be a flash move. Alright, so now that we've got the Poke Flute, now we need to do Safari Zone and Silphco. We'll see which order he does it in. Generally, the order is determined by your inventory management, and I am not sure how the Japanese route's inventory management actually works out. So he might go to the left to go to Safari Zone first, or he might go to the right to go to Silphco first, and we'll see. Looks like he used a Super Repel, so he's going down to Safari Zone first. So inventory management is a big thing for routing the Gen 1 games because you only have 20 item slots, and so you need to have space for every item that is important. So like getting the Poke Flute, if you have a full inventory, you just can't pick it up until you free up one of those slots. But also you don't want to pick up items that aren't important. So when you defeat a gym leader, they give you a TM, right? So like Koga will give TM06 for Toxic, and he didn't go far enough to the left. This shouldn't be too big of a deal. He'll just fight the trainer and then adjust the rare candy timings to fix whatever extra experience he gets. Yeah, so Koga would get you would give you TM06 for Toxic, but if you have a full inventory, he'll just say you don't have space for this. And you skip a decent chunk of text, and you skip a jingle when you get that for getting that item. So for all of the gym leaders where you don't care about the TM, meaning like Koga, Erica, Blaine, and Sabrina, you want to have a full inventory for all of those gym leaders, and Giovanni as well. You want to have a full inventory for all of those gym leaders. And so the order you do Safari and Sylph, you set it up so that you have the free item slots in order to get things like the Surf HM, the Gold Teeth, and the Earthquake TM, and the Rare Candy and Sylph as well. But you want to end with no space left so that when you do fight the gym leaders, you have the full inventory. And one other thing that is pretty carefully done in this section is the timing of using super repels. So in Generation 1, you're able to use a super repel at any time, even if there's one already active, and it just refreshes the counter. It doesn't add to the counter. So like super repels will repel for 200 steps. If you take on 100 steps and then use another super repel, the counter will be 200, not 300. But if you let the counter run all the way to 0, then you'll get a text box saying your repel ran out. So ideally, you use super repels before that text box appears to keep refreshing the counter, and you never get that extra text box. And if you do set it up correctly, it's like I think that text if that text box were to appear, would cost you about 1 second. But by just using super repels at the appropriate spots, you don't lose that second at all. I think he picked up a full restore, so he hadn't used his first full restore, so that shouldn't be necessary, but, you know, it's Marathon, probably just safety strats to pick up that extra full restore. You never know what might go wrong. So now that we've done Safari Zone, we dug out of the Safari Zone. That takes us back to Celadon. That's one of the reasons why he took the Celadon Center before going to Safari Zone. And then he's going to go to Sylph, and then you can dig out of Sylph again, and that'll put us back into Celadon as before. So we're going to take a detour here to fight one more optional trainer. This is the only other optional trainer that's worth doing. And this isn't for experience like the other optional trainers were. This is because this trainer is guarding some really good items. He's guarding the Earthquake TM and a Rare Candy, as well as a Carbos, but because we have manipulated a very good Nidoran, we don't need that Carbos to raise our speed. And because, again, this is a case where in some English, depending on exactly what... I'm not totally up to date on what the optimal route is for English at the moment, but in some routes we would use Thrash on this Machoke. But because we taught Ice Beam early for Games Corner, we don't have Thrash. So the only option in this Japanese routing is to use that Horn Drill, to use the next accuracy and then use Horn Drill. It turns out to be pretty similar speed to just use Thrash and have to use Thrash once on that fight versus using an X accuracy and a Horn Drill. And so now he teaches Earthquake. Earthquake is extremely powerful. It's 100 base power, ground type move, 100 accuracy, and because Nidoking is a ground type, we get same type attack bonus, or abbreviated stab, and that raises the power of it even farther. So it's going to be the main attacking move alongside Horn Drill for clearing out the rest of the game. So here we're fighting an Arbok, just going to Earthquake it, and it'll die in one hit. So here he put Earthquake in slot 4. You can hit up in order to go down immediately from slot 1 to slot 4. And that's why slots 2 and 4 are generally most accessible. So he gets the card key. Now he's going to take this teleport, take it back, because the door we want to go through is right here. And we'll be at the rival fight pretty shortly. So when he does enter the rival fight, you'll notice he walks up a tile. And that's to make the rival take a shorter path. Because the rival's going to walk from the bottom of the screen to the teleporter that we came from. And he's going to take the shortest path there. But if we're right off that corner of the desk, then the shortest path is going to involve walking all the way around our character. So by walking up, we save the rival a lot of time, and saves our time in the end as well. So this is a really interesting fight. If we were going for a record attempt, there would be a strategy called Self-Red Bar, where we actually let the Gyarados hit us with Hydro Pump to get to a very low HP in Red Bar. But because this is a marathon, I expect he's just going to not take that risk. Because if the Gyarados crits, it'll ignore the X special boost that we need to survive that Hydro Pump, and just straight up kill. So he's not going to take that risk. And you also, what also happened in that fight is he used an X accuracy, and then and then he got sand attacked. But the X accuracy actually skips the accuracy check entirely. It doesn't matter that he gets sand attacked at all. All of his moves are still completely accurate because of that X accuracy. So on this fight, there's no worry about sand attack or anything. And it would be faster for this particular fight to use Horn Drill and everything, because like it is a shake move. You don't have to move the cursor. But he wants to save the Horn Drills for the Giovanni fight coming up. There's a couple Pokemon there where Horn Drill is going to be the Horn Drill is the only move that we have one-shots them. Stringflow is asking, what is the 10 in Thunderbolt's name? The Japanese name for Thunderbolt is Juman Boluto, which means 100,000 volts. So Ju is 10, and Mon is 10,000. So the Japanese numbering system actually uses groups of 4 digits rather than 3. So yeah. It makes Thunderbolt really easy to recognize because it has that 10 staring at you, even if you don't know what the move name actually means. Alright, so this Giovanni fight is not scary at all because we're not going for Red Bar. If we did go for Self-Red Bar, we would give this Nidorino a turn, and depending on what move it uses, it can do various amounts of damage. And if the damage numbers don't work out quite right, it can end up killing you. And that's pretty unfortunate. Overall, getting Red Bar in Self saves probably about, I'd say, 50 seconds. It's actually really, really big, but it also carries a really high chance of dying. So in a marathon setting, it's probably not worth it. But we will be seeing a Red Bar setup soon enough. Right after he exits Self, he'll be going to do Koga's Gym, and we'll have a really nice, we'll have a very consistent setup for Red Bar there. And at that point, I'll explain what Red Bar actually does, since we'll see it in action. So here in Koga's Gym, there's not too much that can go wrong. The most worrying thing is the Gen 1 miss, where, Earthquake has a 1 in 256 chance of missing, and Koga's Gym is full of Psychic types, and Psychic is super effective against our Poison type. So missing an Earthquake is somewhat of a problem, although because he's at high enough HP, he should be able to survive anything that comes at us. And there will be on the second trainer, there will be a Hypno that doesn't die in one hit, but he's even high enough to survive a critical confusion from that Hypno. So the only risk is getting actually getting confused by it, and that's about it. This is actually a place where the Games Corner might actually change the experience path, and also the extra trainer on Cycling Road might change the experience path a little bit. So he's restoring his PP here, and he's actually saving before this juggler. There's a chance that he dies here, but it's really rare, and saving costs 7 seconds, so it's hard. It's maybe not worth it, but it's a marathon. He just wants to play really safe. But I think that the experience will actually end up being exactly the same on English, because after the Koga fight, he'll be using rare candies, and he'll just rare candy to the exact same level. Rare candies always put you in at 0 experience at the next level, and so it's just a matter of making sure that you rare candy to the right level. So this fight, there's going to be a strat that was found by Montebank back at the beginning of 2014, I guess, where Nidoking is ground poison type, and Koga's Wheezing has a bunch of moves that are not very effective against Nidoking, and then it also has I forget whether it's Explosion or Self-Destruct. I think it's Explosion. And so, because of Koga's AI, he'll always use Explosion against Nidoking. And we can use that to pick up a nice double knockout. So here he's going to use an X accuracy just to waste that turn. And Wheezing will self-destruct. And we still win the fight because we have other Pokemon a lot. But Nidoking is now at 0 HP. And what 0 HP does is, well, I mean, it's very low HP. So now he's going to, well, after picking up the Strength HM, he'll use rare candies in order to revive at very low health. So, and that health will be in the red bar range. So now is a great time to explain exactly what red bar is and what it does. So red bar is a sound effect that plays when you're below 5/24ths of your max HP. The reason it's 5/24ths is that the HP bar is 48 pixels wide, and so if you're below 10 pixels worth of health, you are in red bar. And when you're in red bar, the game plays this beeping sound effect, sort of like an alert, saying, "Hey, you're low health. You're low health." And while that sound effect is playing, the game doesn't wait for other sound effects to finish. So, for example, like when you level up, normally the game plays a level up jingle and waits for the jingle to finish, and then you can continue. Or like when a Pokemon gets sent out, right? The Pokemon's cry plays, and then the game waits for that cry to finish, and then lets you continue. But when you're in red bar, what will actually happen is that it will like play the cry or the level up jingle or whatever, but it just won't wait for it, and it'll just keep playing the red bar jingle, and you can just keep going through the menus. So you'll see that when a fight actually happens, you'll see that like it goes very quickly. Like when a Pokemon gets sent out, there's no waiting. It just like it doesn't wait for the cry at all. It just goes, okay, you can use your move or whatever. You can select your move, and it saves about we don't actually know the full amount of time that Red Bar saves because like we know a lot of different cases where Red Bar saves time and we can measure those. But when you add all those up and you compare it to when you actually do Red Bar in a run, Red Bar actually saves more than the sum of all known time saves. So there's still like some like time saves that we aren't really sure where they're coming from, but it's Red Bar saves probably about like 1.5 seconds per Pokemon that you fight, plus more time for each level up, plus various other things. So here he picked up just one candy to get to level 47, and then is going to dig out. And the experience is all set up very precisely because you want to, like, in some games, you know, like I think in Paper Mario, when you level up, you like get a full heal or whatever. And there's kind of similar situations like it's not a full heal, but when you level up, you lose any stacked badge boosts that you might have had from like using an next special gives you an extra speed badge boost if you've beaten Koga. And so when you level up, you lose that extra badge boost, and that can actually mess you up. If you lose your badge boost at the wrong time, you'll be slower than one of your opposing Pokemon, and that will make Horn Drill not work. That'll mean you can get hit, and so on. So here's the main Red Bar section. This section of Red Bar saves probably like 1.5 or 2 minutes over not going for Red Bar at all, and it's completely safe because the only thing that can go wrong is Gen 1 misses. If you're taking out every Pokemon in one hit, you outspeed everything. There's no setup turns whatsoever, except on Blaine, but I'll talk about why that one's completely safe as well. So here, like Vileplume gets sent out, and immediately he can use Ice Beam, no waiting for the cry at all. Saves a whole bunch of time overall. So that's Erica, and now we'll see whether he goes to Blaine or Sabrina. I would guess Blaine, but he is much higher level than we would normally be for the English route, so you know, it's always a question of did the games corner and did the extra trainer and rare candies change what order you want to do the gyms in. So here we've got the quiz machines. They have the same answers every time. You just say yes, no, 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 yes, no, and don't have to fight any trainers. They do lag quite a bit after the final text box, and it can be pretty annoying. There's a particular the second to last and last quiz machines, you want to be moving right and then up right after the lag time, but because of the lag, it's very easy to accidentally bonk into the trainer. It only costs a couple frames, but you know, if you like, the lag is what makes it really really difficult to have perfect movement at this point. Alright, so on Blaine, he will probably be using an X accuracy on turn 1, and you might be like, oh no, why is he using an X accuracy? Isn't that risky because the Growlithe can attack and just do 15 damage? Oh, he's actually going for just Earthquakes. But you have the option of using an X accuracy here, and the reason this is safe is that Blaine and most of the late game gym leaders have what we call good AI, and it's sort of the same AI as that causes Koga to always use self-destruct. If there's a super effective move, the gym leader will always use it. And if there are not very effective moves, they won't use it unless they don't have any other attacking moves. So the Growlithe has this move called Agility. And Agility is Psychic type. And Psychic is super effective against Poison. So if you use that X accuracy, the Growlithe will just use Agility, and that's you have no risk of getting hit at all. But he just went for 4 Earthquakes, and I guess he's routed the PP such that he has enough Earthquakes for Sabrina as well. This route is using Earthquake on both Blaine and Sabrina is really very, very strenuous on your PP because you're using 8 out of your 10 Earthquakes right here, and you need to make sure that you don't need more than 2 Earthquakes elsewhere within the range between 2 PP restoring items. So here he certainly will just go for 4 Earthquakes. And if we weren't manipulating the stats, and if we were, well, I mean, I think that he's actually a lot higher level than the English route would be. But for the normal route, with a non-manipulated Nidoran, if your speed is too low, the Alakazam can actually outspeed you. And so you have to use an X speed at some point, because the Alakazam is going to kill you basically every time. So you need to use an X speed, and the best place to use an X speed is on Mr. Mime, who can use Light Screen or Reflect and not hit you. But Reflect means that he can survive an Earthquake, and it's really risky. You have something like a 40% chance to die if you are too slow. So luckily now we have RNG manipulation, so there's no so we just outspeed that Alakazam every time, and no worries there. So coming up is going to be one of the scariest fights left in the run. It's the black belt in Giovanni's gym up here, who's going to block our way. And he's scary because we're in red bar, and he's going to oh, actually no save here. So maybe being level 49 makes this not risky. But at the normal level, you're going to give the Machoke at least one turn. And Earthquake will be a damage range, so if you get unlucky, he can the Machoke can get a turn and can Karate Chop you and just take out the remaining 21 health that you have. But it looks like because he's level 49, he might not even have a damage range on those Machokes, and can just use 3 Earthquakes and have no worries. So here he's gonna leave the gym. Like, you could take the spinning tile and go behind the black belt, but it's actually faster. Like, we saw how slow those spinning tiles were in Games Corner, right? It's actually faster to leave the gym, re-enter. That causes the black belt to go back to his original spot, and you can just walk right past him. And now we've got Giovanni, who we don't have, like, so you just one-shot all of Giovanni's Pokemon except for the Rhydon at the end. But again, Giovanni has good AI, and he has this particular ground type move that's super effective against your poison type, called Fissure. But the Rhydon is slower than your Nidoking, so Fissure just never does anything. So if he does use a move, he'll just use Fissure. Giovanni can also use a Guard Spec, but that also doesn't do anything to you. And yeah, so he almost got it in, but not quite. But there's no actual risk there. Alright, so this fight coming up, is the Viridian Rival fight, is one of the most interesting fights in the English route. I'm not sure if it works the same way I'm not sure how it works with the experience routing that Penuda has done. When in the English route, we would be using an X special on turn 1 to both get us the special boost to one-shot the Pidgeot, but also to give us the speed boost to outspeed the Alakazam later on. And because we don't level up in between, we would keep that speed boost all the way to the Alakazam and level up right after the Alakazam. It's one of the coolest strats in the game. But we'll see I'm interested to see what the strats will be for when you're level 50. So there's an X accuracy, and then he's using an X speed. And at least I think it was an X speed. So maybe the special boost from the X speed was enough to and yeah, he leveled up right there to 51, so he doesn't keep any badge boosts. So we did in fact have to do slightly different strats than we would do with the normal English route. Also, that Pidgeot is another Pokemon with agility, and where the trainer has good AI, so he'll just be using agility every turn. This also means that the Pidgeot will be faster than the Nidoking, so we can't use Horn Drill there, but Ice Beam did enough damage to take it out in one hit, so there's no real problem with that. And then we can Horn Drill everything else with the 5 Horn Drill PP. We actually, actually no, I take that back. We could Horn Drill everything else, but we actually don't want to Horn Drill everything else because so the Venusaur is worth Horn Drilling because nothing else will take it out in one hit. But every other Pokemon can be one-shotted with with other moves, like with Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, or Earthquake. And by using only one Horn Drill PP on that fight, we can have 4 Horn Drills left for Lorelei without taking the Elite Four Center, and actually preserve our red bar into the first part of the Elite Four. So we'll see that where we used 4 Horn Drills on Lorelei with just an Earthquake on the Jinx. And Earthquake does enough damage to KO the Jinx. But before we get to the Elite Four, we have the Strength Puzzles. There's a trick you can do here called Swag Boulder, where if you turn right as you hit the boulder, you can actually get the turn, and it displays the dust particles in the direction that you turn toward. But because you're doing turns, it actually loses, I think, 2 frames every time you do it. But it does look cool, so some people like doing it, even though it loses time. And we don't want to see any optional trainers get hit here. Though, this is the worst place to hit optional trainers. Unfortunately, he took an extra step there. So the second repel timing is extremely tight, and if you take no extra steps, you can actually get all the way to the hole you drop down from the top floor before the repel wears out. And then, because when you drop through the hole, you end up off your bike. So then you could get on the bike and use the super repel in the same menu, and also use strength in the same menu. Well, bike and strength need to be in different menus, but you can get on the bike in the same menu that you you can use the super repel and bike in the same menu. And that saves about a second because opening the menu is really slow. But I think his super repel will wear out slightly before that point. So we'll see if he just decides to go YOLO through a few tiles, or if he decides to use the repel early. It's really kind of personal preference. You know, sometimes you just feel like taking risks, and sometimes you don't. Okay, he's gonna use the repel a little bit early. And that's the last super repel, so now all the items have shifted up one, and all the X items are in really convenient spots for the Elite Four. Hey, he did a swag boulder. Alright, so, we're not going to deposit Pokemon because we would only be depositing one Pokemon, and that's not worth it. The reason to deposit Pokemon is because any Pokemon you take through the Elite Four are going to be displayed in the Hall of Fame, which takes time. So if you have enough extra Pokemon, it's actually worth it to deposit them before the Elite Four. So this is the one time where a Pokemon other than Nidoking is planned. It has an important role in the fight. So we send out the Farfetch'd, it dies to Aurora Beam, and now we send out Nidoking. We can safely set up our X accuracy because the Dugong will use Rest. And this is a quirk of Lorelai's AI. There's 3 different sort of flags that trainers can have to determine their AI, and Lorelai has all 3. And the second one is the least common, which changes what they do on turn 2, and they'll just prioritize certain moves on the second turn. And Rest is one of those moves that's prioritized on the second turn. So as a result, if we get to turn 2, Lorelai will be guaranteed to use Rest. But how do we get to turn 2? Well, what we do is we switch into the bird. We switch into whatever our flyer is.
His name is Dux. All right, he has a name. You honor his sacrifice.
I don't think that What is the Japanese name?
I don't know.
Like Osho.
It's actually not Dux. It's something else.
Yeah, it's not actually Dux here, but yeah. So you switch into your flyer. I mean, sometimes it's Dux, sometimes it's Spearow, sometimes it's Pidgey, and that Dugong will always use Aurora Beam against that flyer, and then that gets you to turn 2, and you can get to set up your X accuracy there. And so yeah, so we're at low health because we want to be below 5/24 of our max HP to be in red bar, which skips things like Pokemon Cries. So you might notice that like Hitmonlee came out there and there was no delay before the fight menu popped up. But we are going to heal before Agatha, and I expect to see a save because Panuta's been making basically every safety save that you could conceive of, and Agatha is a scary fight. It's actually interesting. I ran simulations on whether to use an X special or an X speed for the Agatha fight, And it turns out that an X special is very slightly better on average. But you know, it's so minor. I kind of expect to see the X speed. But the idea is, like, the thing that makes Agatha scary is that we're giving the Gengar a turn to set up. And Gengar has Confuse Ray, Hypnosis, Nightshade, and... Okay, so he got put to sleep, so now he's going to use a Poke Flute. This is also one of the fights that's hardest to do if you don't speak Japanese when you're trying to play the Japanese version, because there's 2 different statuses that you can get on the fight. There's 2 different things that can happen that and you need to react to them differently. So takes a little bit of getting used to figure out, if you don't speak Japanese, how to recognize which bad thing happened to you and what to do about it. So it looks like he is fine at this point. And we will see another save before Lance, because again, we need to set up on... Oh, he actually did go for... It looks like maybe he did go for the X special strat, because the final Gengar outsped him. Or maybe there was a haze that I missed. Or maybe he used a... No, I don't think he used a full restore at full HP, but there are some various things that can cause you to get outsped there, even if you use the X speed. But he got through the fight, no problem. And we're gonna save before Lance because we do need to set up an X special here in order to survive the Hydro Pump from Gyarados, and then yeah, so we're gonna be setting up an X special, and if Gyarados crits, it ignores the special boost, so we'll just straight up die to a crit. Not even close. So there's the X special, and Hydro Pump hit, and hopefully we don't see a crit here. Okay. Very good. And Thunderbolt, and then the Dragonairs have agility. Once again, they're always going to use agility, so we can use an X speed. But it looks like he's not going for that X speed. Maybe, like, again, he did go to a higher level than we normally go to, so it's possible he just has enough... Oh, he's just doing it on the second Dragonair. Okay. That's totally fine. It's totally personal preference whether to set up on the first or second Dragonair. So that X speed is important for the Aerodactyl. And then, as you might have learned from Twitch Plays Pokemon, the Dragonite has agility. So even if something went horribly wrong once you're at the Dragonite, you can't lose. And then there's the champion fight, and it is possible to die to the champion fight, unfortunately. We want to set up an X accuracy and an X speed, and that's going to give the Pidgeot a turn, and if it uses Sky Attack on the first turn and then it crits it, it can actually take out the Nidoking from full. That should be the only way to die from full health. Is to get that turn 1 Sky Attack crit. And then if you are looking at like the Japanese leaderboard timing, in addition to doing Games Corner, they also end their time slightly differently. They include the credits in the time. The English leaderboards have set the end timing to be essentially at last input. It's when the credits start, but the Japanese timing includes the credits as well. So that accounts for a lot of why the Japanese times look slower is because they're doing Games Corner and they're including credits. So even though the Japanese text is way faster, the times are higher. But he got past the Pidgeot, no Sky Attack crit, so just gonna... he should be totally fine. Just gotta Hornbill the last couple Pokemon. And that's the last... That's basically the end of the game. So it looks like this will come out to the credits starting just above 2 hours. The credits will probably finish around 2:02, I think. Well underestimate. It's a good run. Actually, I guess the Hall of Fame is longer than I thought. The credits will probably start around 2:01.
Well, thank you, Extra Tricky, for the commentary.
Yep, thank you for having me. And
Absolutely made our job a lot easier, that's for sure. And this is just the start here of the, I guess we'd call it the Pokemon block. There's some games where 2 games is a block. Pokemon's probably one of them. So we got Black and White 2 coming up next. And then later we've got everything from Doraemon to GoldenEye. Mario 64 a little bit later.
Yep, and Black and White 2 should be a really cool run. I think they have some RNG manipulation there as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably just be watching, but yeah. I think Vulgin's doing commentary. He knows the game really well.
Yeah, Vulgin will be joining us on the call here for that. In the meantime, everybody that's watching, if you can do us a favor and spread the stream, whether it's with a tweet or other, form of social media, you can call up your grandma, make sure she tunes in. Obviously, we're all excited about the fact that this is the first kind of major speedrunning event in Japan. So the more viewers we can bring into this, the better. And we still have over a day of content remaining, so it's not too late to bring people in. And of course, for those of you watching here on the Speed Gaming channel, you can also watch on twitch.tv/RTA in Japan for the Japanese commentary.
Yep, and for anyone asking about game audio, the Japanese stream will have game audio for you, but because we're commentating on that stream, it'll be slightly desynced from our commentary.
By the way, I love these screens that they've come up with. I mean, this being the first event and all, I feel like the production value is really solid on the stream here. I love the, they've got their own graphics already, and just, it looks like a good setup too. That room looks really nice.
All right, well, I will let you hand it over to Vulgin, and I'll be stepping out. But
all right.
Hope everyone enjoys the Black and White 2 run.
Thanks for the commentary again, and we'll welcome Vulgin into the call.
Yo.
How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm looking forward to some additional Pokemon. One's not quite enough.
Do you agree with me that 2 Pokemon games makes a block?
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 hours of Pokemon, absolutely.
That's what I think, yeah. There's some games where it's like 2 games is a block. That's got to be.
So we're gonna see whether setting up the DS capture caused any issues for them tonight. I know there were some problems yesterday with 3DS, but hopefully that's all smoothed over.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a learning curve in all of this, whether it's the tech side of things or just even the organization of the event in the first place. But I've been continually impressed with what I've seen so far.
That is awesome to hear. Unfortunately, I have been on the road most of today, so I haven't gotten to watch anything so far, but I've definitely enjoyed the Pokemon Red and Blue run. Was really good. And I'm really impressed, like just seeing that packed room there, like people not just like coming here to play their games on the stream, but there's like a crowd watching them. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is how GDQ took off over the years. It really, I mean, if you look at it, it's sort of like looking into like a time capsule or something. Go back a few years and look at it. This is exactly what leads to a big event like GDQ. So
yeah, exactly.
It's exciting to see. We are getting set up here for Black and White 2. I understand if you didn't get a chance to tune in earlier today, obviously, it's middle of the day, a lot of people at work and stuff. But if you didn't have the chance to see it, you need to go back and check out the Mario Brothers block for sure. Highly recommend.